mentioning in the first segment. This booklet can help you understand why this is significant for you, why you need to know. It will help you understand what lies just ahead. So we're going to talk about that big subject. And as we ended that first segment, we talked about how that beast, this beast that's pictured in this booklet, how it represents a government. Now, how exactly does it represent a government? What kind of government does this end-time beast of Revelation represent?
The end-time beast of Revelation has to do with the geopolitical system.
Now that's a big word for me.
Okay.
What's a geopolitical?
How about a group of nations, confederation of nations?
Okay, so that's why all the heads and horns?
That's right, precisely. Okay. And for years, for hundreds of years, indeed 1,500 years, we've had that kind of thing take place in certain part of the earth. And so that is what's going to take place. If you read secular history, if you read the Bible and put them together, you will find that there's only one place on earth that can take place. That's going to be an incredible government. It's going to be the greatest global government, superpower, that we've ever seen before.
So we're talking about this beast representing governments in the past,
yes,
as well as governments to come, and a conglomeration or a geopolitical system of nations that will be ruling.
Yes, and that's Europe, as he's been describing there. When you look back in history, through biblical history as well as world history, you can see the great governments that have been there. Babylon, the Persians, the Greeks, and finally the great Roman Empire that was the greatest of all empires of the time. And that empire was to reform and rebuild and be on the world scene again. And this would happen many, many times, and each of those heads and horns represents a re-emergence of that world-dominating government of the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire.
And so you've got a powerful beast. I mean, when you look at the horns and the heads and the teeth and the claws, we're talking about wild animals here. An end-time nation is going to be a fierce nation. One that represents a governmental system. Now, how do we know that's what it represents, a system and the government that's coming?
The Bible talks about Gentile kingdoms that in stepwise progression, in sequence, they follow one another, but the very last one is a culmination of all of the previous
Now,
ones.
is that only in the book of Revelation?
No, you find it also in Daniel chapter 7. You can find it throughout Daniel, but especially Daniel chapter 7. I kind of call Daniel 7 and Revelation 13 twin prophecies because they speak just about the same thing. So you've got different nations, Babylon, for example, Persia, Greece, and then you have the Roman Empire.
Ones
Those are the historical ones. And the Bible is clear on it because Daniel chapter 8 specifically talks about the second and third beast and names them. That they are Persia and Greece. So
we have proof from the past that beast does represent something that was real. And in a sense, can't that help us to understand that it's representing something that's just around the corner?
Yes, and when we come to the descriptions we have in Revelation, it describes the power of those past nations, those past governments, how that the claws of the bear, and a bear tears and destroys, the lion, the leopard, the speed, the wings of an eagle. All of these descriptive terms in the book of Revelation help us understand that this is the culmination of those final governments all together with the last one. Jerry mentioned throughout Daniel. And in Daniel chapter 2, you have a description of an image that starts off as gold, which is a very soft, pure metal, and ends up with iron, which is very strong and powerful. And of course, that's the end-time system that will crush all other systems.
And so when you look at that, would it be fair to say it's not just political, it's not just a political union, it's not just an economic union, but we're also talking about a militaristic union, aren't we?
Very much a militaristic union. You've got to have the military to be able to, make advancements, to be able to go in, as they say about the beast, as Christ reveals about the beast, stamping to pieces. You find that also in Daniel chapter 7. You also find it in Daniel 8. And these different prophecies that fit closely together, they stamp the residue with their feet. They're powerful, they're horrendous, and they're fearful. And this last beast, again, is a composite beast and is a culmination of all the others. So he's much more fierce, tyrannical than any of the previous ones.
And that's just what's on the horizon now as we look at that. So if we talk about the significance for us, if we talk about our government, or what is this government going to be like? What is this world-dominating power going to be like?
All-powerful in many respects, except, of course, not
how's it
going
to treat people?
Very, very badly, because it will have all power given to it from Satan. and Satan will support this government, will put it into power,
What about
give
our
it
rights?
authority.
What about our rights?
Our rights will be taken away. There will be no rights. We won't be able to buy and sell very easily, if at all. And, talk about, the different things that governments pass. There will not be any freedom for the people. The people will have to do what the government says. And the government's going to be selfish and demanding and get their way. And it'll be a tyrannical government. It'll be a terrible government that will keep everyone in fear. Of course, they're also going to come up with this idea that we're coming in here and we're going to fix the problems of the world. This same government.
So it's not going to come in necessarily with an astounding, biting, devouring power.
That's one of the reasons why the people are going to accept it. They will accept it with a good thought about it until after this thing develops. Then it's going to become even more tyrannical, and it'll be too late for them. They'll be trapped in it, and they can do nothing else about it but to follow the dictates of the government.
So in a sense, we talk about government ruling our lives today. This is nothing compared to that.
Well, what's happening in Europe now is it comes together as a socio-economic combination of nations, and it grows in power, it grows in strength. It's got 100 million more people than America has at the moment, and it is the center of the world, will become the center of the world and the headquarters of this government. A German leader many, many years ago made the statement, whoever rules Berlin can rule Germany. Whoever rules Germany can rule Europe. Whoever rules Europe can run the world. That's quite a significant statement when you think of this beast.
I wanted to mention, if I might, and it builds on what Paul was saying there. Europe is absolutely the only place on earth where this can take place. And the reason for that is if you check the Scripture, Revelation 17, Revelation 13, even in Daniel 7, not so much Daniel 8, but those three chapters, prophecy tells us that it has to do with an interface between the military, political head, and religion. And the only place that has ever taken place on this earth like that, and for the last 1,500 years to be sure, is in Europe. Only religion interfaced with the political powers. And there were kings that came up and were brought down. Religions would bless particular heads of Europe, and they were called holy, and otherwise they were not. But those things progressed, and you had a number of revivals, and we're waiting for the very last one. So history is going to repeat itself, and it fits in very tightly with Scripture, with this prophecy about the government of the future.
Yeah, so when you talk about government, you talk about empires and oppression and the difficulty, you can't help but think of this beast that's mentioned in the book of Revelation. In fact, with all the heads pointing to the past and leading us to the future. We've seen that the beast symbolizes a world-dominating end-time government. But that's not all. The beast also represents something that will absolutely affect your life. Stay tuned.
What is the matrix of meanings of the book of Revelation, with its mysterious images of catastrophes, beasts, and demonic traps of deception? As the scrolls in Revelation open, understand how even Christianity will dissolve as the world system explodes in religious-inspired violence. Solve the riddle of the number of the beast. Find out by going to BeyondToday.tv or calling 1-888-886-8632 for your free copy of the Book of Revelation Unveiled. Every family needs a steady diet of good news, so get yours with your free subscription to the Good News magazine. You'll regularly read about how to apply principles of family success that always work. Raise happy children, enhance and solve problems in your relationship, and move ahead by calling toll-free 1-888-886-8632 or go online to BeyondToday.tv for the good news. Help your family succeed.
You've just heard about the Good News magazine. We hope you'll go online to BeyondToday.tv and read it for yourself. Order it. It's free. All of our booklets and magazines are free, so we hope you'll order them. Not only prophetic things are discussed in here, but family issues, all kinds of things that would be helpful for your life today. So we hope you'll get online and order that magazine and get on the website as well. Well, we've been talking about the beast and how it represented a government. Now, that's not all there is to the story. The beast also represents another aspect. What other aspect does the beast represent?
The beast also represents a person. And the person is the front man, as it were, for Satan the devil. And so Satan has, down through the ages, centuries and millennia, has been behind and has influenced many different leaders, despots, tyrants, you name it. You can find it in Bible history, you can find it in secular history, and some of them were extremely cruel. So he's been behind this for Well, since human beings have been on this
So if we
earth,
summarize real
you have
quick, the
governments.
beast represents a government, but
Correct.
also an individual. It seems like this world today that we live in, you